I was sick, and in my delirious haze after watching the FGO Babylon anime adaptation, finally, I relapsed and I started an NA FGO account. Now, I was a day 1 FGO JP player. I've played up until Camelot, but I've never actually ended up finishing it. And then I fell off the FGO train because of life, but I was still playing off and on for events. I did end up losing the account eventually, which while I didn't really sink a lot of money into it, it was still a bit of a shame. This time around, I started an NA account. At the time of starting, there was no particular reason to play NA instead of JP. In hindsight, however, English is definitely more digestible for me. I do know Japanese to a somewhat competent degree, if I can toot my own horn here, but reading it for long periods of time gives me headaches. Also, we basically have long-term and short-term clairvoyance in NA with the JP and the KR servers. At the point of writing this script, I have played for almost 2 weeks now, and this is going to be a new / returning player experience video, as well as a new account report after finishing the singularities up to Solomon. Let's start with some notable pulls and my servant lineup that I have, or what people have been calling around the internet my box. Atalanta was my first SR from the beginner pool. Perk would have been awesome, but I couldn't really be bothered to reroll, and I would have taken anyone, honestly. I like Atalante, I think she's cool, and I'm pretty happy with what I got. The main banner when I started were the Young Guifei banner and the Van Gogh banner. I rolled on the Van Gogh banner and got her at around 40 pulls-ish, which was very lucky. And this was before even knowing what she does. I pulled on the banner because A, I think having a high rarity servant would be good to help carry me through this story because of sheer amount of stats. And B, I think both her and Nemo's design are neat. So whichever SSR I ended up getting, I was gonna be happy. I also got Saber Lily from the FB Gacha, which was a surprise. Didn't even know that was a thing. I know that she's not really the best unit. Even from when I was playing, she was pretty mediocre. And I'm pretty sure that she didn't get the Emiya treatment, which apparently makes him godlike now. But I still leveled her up because she is a certified cute. And I also did get the little captain in the end after I've beaten Solomon, which is yesterday at the time of recording this video. But since he is apparently not the best unit, I've only ascended him once. I know that I said I liked his design, and I am of the belief that design trumps gameplay any day, but I am very strapped for resources because I've spent the majority of my time going through the singularities and maxing out units to help with that. I will raise him right eventually, but for now the captain will be on standby. Also, something of note is that I didn't realize that we had the Instamax special ascension for a single servant until Okeanos. This was before I got Van Gogh and after I have ascended Atalante twice. So, by a stroke of luck, not knowing that functionality exists, I thought that doing this for Atalanta would be a little bit of a waste. So I was gonna save it for whatever SSR/SR I got next, which ended up being Van Gogh. So it worked out. And this was even before I knew what Van Gogh does. When I got my max Van Gogh, I was deploying her with a support Scotty. Oh, how naive I was. Other than those, I tried to level a servant from each of the main 7 classes to at least help with content. I got Kojiro pretty early on. He is still the savior of France for my account, and I swear it is easier to kill dragons this time around. Maybe my memory is bad. Aside from Atalante, I also raised Uriel as my second archer because of Gawain, and I did not pull Robin. She ended up being useful for fights other than Gawain, but that was my primary reasoning for leveling her. I maxed out Mashu because my cardinal sin The first time around playing the game, I ignored her completely. So this time around, I did right by our lovely Kohai and I maxed her out. Paracelsus was erased as my budget support. I haven't pulled Hans yet in this account, which is a shame, but Paracelsus still gets the job done. The rest of my max units are Fergus, Hector, Manricardo, and Fuma Kotaro. Fergus I maxed because I didn't pull Kaisar until somewhat recently. Manricardo is because I have yet to pull Ushiwakamaru. Hector and Kotaro I just like the best among my options. Currently, no servants are grailed. I am very tempted to grail Van Gogh because the more I use her, the more I fall in love with her. She is adorable, hits like an absolute truck, and from the videos that I've seen on YouTube, investing in her has been proven to be a good choice. Other potential grail targets among the servants I currently have are Hector, because I like him the best out of everyone currently, or my newfound design love, Garrett. I don't even know how she plays, but she's very cute and her design is very much up my alley. As for the story, super glad I restarted on NA. It is way more digestible than the first time around going through on JP, way back when my Nihongo was not as Jozu as now. I'm gonna start talking about story stuff now for FGO Part 1. This is your spoiler warning. Use the chapter below to skip this section if you want to avoid spoilers. The FGO story is very all over the place in terms of cohesiveness and quality. Also, I did realize after playing through basically all of Part 1 back to back that the story structure is super bloated. Most of the story and quest progression felt like playing an MMO in terms of how sluggish it was. But story-wise, out of everything pre-Camelot, I found Okeanos to be the most fun. Maybe even more fun than Babylon. But maybe that's my Drake bias speaking. As for gameplay strats, my strat to go through the story was pretty simple. After discovering Plushy Mistress and their video on Van Gogh misconceptions and a showcase on Double Van Gogh, I ran Double Van Gogh. It was mostly Van Gogh, Atalante, a support Van Gogh up front, and Mashu +1 in the back depending on the node, and it worked wonders aside from a couple of hangups. One of the big ones was Camelot. Camelot was a fun story. I definitely need to catch up on the movie. The Gawain fight was the only fight where I swapped out of Double Van Gogh to run Archer's frontline, but other than that, the fight itself wasn't actually that hard. And hey, years later, I finally beat Camelot and I have a newfound appreciation for Arash. I knew from community memes that he was hype. And now I feel after beating Camelot that I get it. I get it firsthand. I understand. Babylonia was also really fun story-wise, and it was actually the point of the game which I realized that the story structure itself was super bloated, especially compared to the anime adaptation. And since I'm playing Babylonia blind, some of the fights, the Lamus, was a bit of a shocker. The fact that they removed buffs was a pain in the ass for Double Van Gogh. But putting up Mashu frontline alongside the Double Go kinda alleviates the problem until they started doing the buff removal twice in one turn, and then I am sad. But aside from that, the rest of the singularity itself wasn't really a problem. And Solomon was Solomon. Structure of the singularity was a bit weird, but I did find out later that this was FGO's take on a raid event. The story stuff per Demon Pillar node was a bit too long for my taste, and it was definitely more of a fan service thing, but for someone going in blind, the ending hits. Well, not like a truck, more like a Vespa or a casual two-wheeled motor vehicle going at cruising speed. It still hits. There were a couple tears shed, I'm not gonna lie. Mashu is indeed best Kohai. All in all, while the story was a bit predictable, basic, and frankly all over the place, I still enjoyed it quite a lot, and I'm looking forward to playing part 1.5 Maybe not Agartha, because I've been warned of Agartha for years now. And the Lost Belts, which, as far as my understanding goes, is a more uniformly decent story, like decent to good. Big shame that the Imaginary Scramble event was locked behind Lost Belt 1, so I couldn't really play it. At the moment of recording this video, there's like 10 hours left on the event, but I am thankfully, as a human personally, is equipped with the FOMO resistance skill ranked A+. So missing out on the event the first time around, missing out on the pretty good welfare CE, well, a shame, not feeling too bad there. As for my plan with the account, I think I'll try my best to stay free to play for the foreseeable future. I used to be a decent spender on gacha games, Grand Blue Fantasy, FGO, JP, Arc Knights, Genshin, but that life is behind me, mostly because I don't have the means to be that guy anymore. Nor at this point in my life would I want to be that guy again, if that makes sense. I mentioned clairvoyance at the beginning of the video. It's because my understanding is that FGO NA is behind JP by about 2 years, so we do have knowledge of upcoming events and banners. Personally, my target for next year are Voyager, Castoria, Morgan, and Tamamovich Koyanskaya, I think that's her name. 4 I know is a bit much, it may be too optimistic, but my dreams have yet to be dashed, so for now, optimism prevails. Priority being, of course, Voyager, followed by Castoria, followed by Tamamo and Morgan last, because if I have to give up on the 4, I'm probably giving up on Morgan, because both Castoria and Tamamo seems like a better pick to have for sure. And Voyager is like a personal thing. I like space a lot. And also, in my previous account, I have never played with power. I didn't have Tamamo or Waver, the original Tamamo caster. When the game released, I didn't have Merlin nor Scotty, which was the broken ones during the time that I actively play. So hopefully, if all goes well, I will at the very least get Castoria. If for some reason my luck prevails and the gacha gods favor me, I do want to try and get either Narrow Caster or Narrow Bride. But this is just getting super greedy. There's also some 4-star servants that I'm personally interested in. One of them is Watanabe no Tsuna, which should come with the Voyager banner, and Barghest, who comes with the Morgan banner. So hopefully I at the very least get these incidental 4 stars from the banners that I want to roll anyway. Fingers crossed for next year. I do want to make more account report videos like this in the future. Maybe show you me rolling for the characters that I want. So if you enjoyed this one, please leave a like and subscribe for more to come. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Thank you.